It was raining the night she decided to leave. The kind of rain that feels like the sky itself is crying. Not just pouring water, but spilling sorrow. Her suitcase sat by the door, half open, clothes spilling out like broken promises. Her heart had been numb for weeks, but tonight, the numbness had turned to ache. The deep, bone-heavy ache of someone who's finally given up. Emma had spent years trying to heal, trying to build a home, trying to believe that love could still exist after betrayal. But the walls that once echoed with laughter now felt like a prison of silent ghosts. She couldn't do it anymore. She couldn't keep pretending she was fine. So she zipped the bag shut, picked up her umbrella, and whispered to herself, "This is it. I'm leaving forever. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in stories that remind us how fragile and beautiful life can be, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Single Sun Stories. Your small gesture helps these stories find the hearts they're meant to touch." Emma's car waited at the edge of the driveway, headlights cutting through the storm. She looked back once at the house, at the memories, at the man sleeping upstairs who once held her like she was the world. Daniel. The man who had promised her forever and then shattered it with silence and distance. For months she had been invisible to him. He didn't shout. He didn't cheat. But he stopped seeing her. Stopped asking how her day was. Stopped reaching for her hand in the dark. They had become strangers under the same roof. And for Emma, that kind of loneliness was worse than being alone. She opened the door and the cold air hit her face like a truth she didn't want to face. Her hands trembled as she gripped the suitcase. She was ready. She had said her silent goodbye. But just as she took her first step outside, she heard a small voice from behind. "Please, stay for my dad." It was Lily, Daniel's daughter from his first marriage. The little girl Emma had loved as her own. She stood barefoot at the edge of the hallway, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes glistening with tears that looked too heavy for a child to carry. Emma froze. The words hit her harder than any argument, sharper than any goodbye. She turned slowly, heart pounding, unsure whether to cry or to run. Lily's lip quivered as she spoke again. "He doesn't say it, but he misses you. Every day." Her voice was a whisper, fragile yet steady. "Please don't go tonight. He needs you. I need you too." Emma's knees almost gave out. She hadn't realized the little girl had seen so much. The quiet dinners, the sleepless nights, the cold distance that filled their home. She wanted to say something, to explain why she had to leave, but no words came. How do you tell a child that love sometimes dies even when you don't want it to? She knelt down and wrapped her arms around Lily, feeling her small body tremble. The scent of the little girl's hair, the warmth of her hug, it broke something inside Emma. For the first time in months, she cried, not out of anger, but from the unbearable weight of love that refused to die. That night, Emma didn't leave. She unpacked her bag in silence, lay on the couch, and stared at the ceiling while rain tapped against the windows. Sleep never came. When morning broke, sunlight crept through the curtains like forgiveness. Daniel found her sitting by the window holding a cup of cold coffee, eyes swollen from tears. He didn't say a word at first. Just stood there, awkward, uncertain, guilty. It was Lily who broke the silence again, running into the room holding both their hands. "Can we go to the lake today, like we used to?" Emma almost refused. But Daniel's eyes met hers, soft for the first time in forever, and something shifted. Maybe it was the exhaustion, maybe it was the child's hope. But she nodded. The lake was quiet that morning, reflecting the pale blue of a sky that had finally cleared. They sat by the water, saying nothing, throwing pebbles that rippled across the surface. For the first time, Daniel spoke. His voice cracked. He apologized, not just for what he had done, but for everything he had stopped doing. For not listening, for letting the silence become a wall between them. He told her he had been afraid, of losing her, of not being enough, of turning into the kind of man who could destroy love without meaning to. Emma listened. Her heart wanted to forgive, but her mind was still guarding the wounds. Yet when she looked at Lily splashing water with laughter echoing like music, something softened inside her. Maybe love wasn't always about starting over. Maybe it was about staying and learning to rebuild from the ruins. Days turned into weeks. Slowly, the cold corners of the house warmed again. Daniel tried, really tried by this time. He left notes in her books, cooked her favorite meals, walked with her at dusk where words came easier in the fading light. Emma, too, started to let the walls down. They went to therapy, talked about pain, talked about how two people can get lost even when walking side by side. It wasn't easy. Some nights they fought. Some days she still packed her bag. But each time she remembered that little voice, "Please stay for my dad," and each time she stayed. Months later, on Lily's birthday, they all went to the same lake again. The wind was soft, the sun kind, and laughter filled the air. Daniel surprised Emma with a small wooden box. Inside was a note that read, "Thank you for staying when leaving was easier." She looked at him, and for the first time, she saw not the man who had hurt her, but the man who was trying to become better for her, for Lily, for himself. Love didn't return overnight, but it returned, quietly like the first light after a long storm. Emma finally realized that sometimes the universe sends you a reason to stay right when you're about to give up, and sometimes that reason comes in the voice of a little girl asking you to hold on just one more night. As the sun set behind the lake, Emma whispered a silent thank you to life, to love, to the rain that washed away the pain. She wasn't leaving anymore. Not because everything was perfect, but because hope had found its way back into her heart. If this story touched your heart, if you've ever been on the edge of giving up but found a reason to stay, please like, share, and subscribe to Single Sun Stories. It means more than you can imagine, and it helps us keep sharing stories that remind people they're not alone in this world. Special request. Comment below. Have you ever stayed when leaving felt easier? Your story might inspire someone who needs to hear it today.